Hi, it's Mars Leon from GBC Live. Today we have Mukesh Sharma, head of Tech Mahindra in China and Japan. We are so happy having him here because we want to talk about AI innovation. AI itself is an innovation, and people are saying that AI is a new innovation. Actually, it's not a new innovation. But in AI, we have some other new innovation, which we want to talk about all those innovation and equation in this area with Mukesh today. But before getting through the topic, we want to see that how Mukesh got in China, what is his background. He's going to tell his story, and we should thank him about that. So, Mukesh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Mars, for having me here, and a very good afternoon to all the viewers of GBC Live. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So yes, thank you so much. And so you asked me how do I get in China. In last 22 years, I have been having a wonderful span of time in the area of technology.
Right.
I started working with an automotive company in Japan,
Right.
had a joint venture with India. I spent almost 4 to 5 years in India and then 4 to 5 years in Japan. And then I took a study break and came to Tsinghua University in Beijing in 2008-9.
Nice.
That was the first time I got introduced to this mass revolution of China.
Right.
And then I stayed on. I said, well, why not to actually work in the area of manufacturing industry, the auto industry. And since then, I have been running the business of Tech Mahindra in the Greater China and the Japan region.
Nice, perfect. So can you tell us about Tech Mahindra itself and what Tech Mahindra is doing based on the background you mentioned?
Yeah. Tech Mahindra is now almost 35-year-old company. They started in 85 when the IT technology revolution was starting in the Indian market and the global markets. So Tech Mahindra started as a joint venture between British Telecom and Mahindra Group. So it was called Mahindra British Telecom. And in 2005, when BT took back this stocks and shares, it became Tech Mahindra.
Tech Mahindra.
And Tech Mahindra is operating into almost 90 countries with around 120,000 people all over the globe. It's around close to $5 billion US dollar organization.
Nice.
And China has been here for us for the last 15 years. We have got around 1,200 people operating in 4 major cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Nanjing, and Shenzhen, and almost around 20 cities where we have our deployments and our maintenance and our digital transformation work going with the manufacturing, high-tech, and the healthcare industries.
Yeah, that's really awesome. We would love to get into Tech Mahindra's project and what you're doing, guys, and so on. But as today is all about AI innovation, we want to just focus on AI and see what AI is and what is innovation in AI. Can you tell us about like AI, then we go on for some other better, deeper questions?
Right. So I think the way AI started, because as you know that Tech Mahindra is into the IT, engineering, design, and the digital transformation.
Yeah.
We have a partner called Gaofeng Advisory who have been working with us for many years in China. And around 2 years ago, when we were observing the trend while having the consultations with the C-level, the way all the companies are trying and striving to increase their top line and bottom line in China, we thought that this new revolution of AI, which is becoming a big umbrella encompassing a lot of things, how we can help our customers to go from point A to point B.
Yes.
And AI is not a new topic. So last year we set up our Shanghai AI Lab, which is it's a joint lab between Tech Mahindra and Gaofeng Advisory. And what we basically are doing is that we are trying to understand that what are the customer problems genuinely and trying to accelerate the solutions to increase their top line and bottom line.
Nice.
If I talk about AI, and maybe all your viewers will be aware that
Yeah.
AI is not a new topic. It started in 1956 when the first AI event happened in the US. And then for 20 years, a lot of research went in the mid-70s when the oil crisis happened. There's a big hype about AI. It could not accelerate because of the reasons that the computing power was slow. Probably there were not many embracers in the mainstream. And then it was more only, getting focused into areas of how you can improve the gaming or the computational speed. Then when the deep blue computer of IBM's and all, defeated Garry Kasparov, then it got some kind of news. And in 2016, AlphaGo defeated the Go champions.
Yeah.
Again, it gets the mainstream news. But behind this, a lot of things happen in the deep learning, in the neural networks, in all the things which actually compose the AI.
Exactly.
So for us, AI is basically a new equation which is evolving. There are new variables always get added. Some old variables get makeover.
Yeah.
So current AI equation for us is composed of three things. One is the big data.
Big data.
It's becoming really big. It's becoming easier to capture the data, store the data, visualize the data, analyze the data. Second equation, which has become very important, is the computing speed, which is actually enabled by the AI hardware, a new AI hardware. A lot of specialist companies who are making that. And the third important element is the old-fashioned, the 70 or 60 years of work which has gone into creating those algorithms, creating those deep learning, creating those neural networks, creating those stuff which actually really goes into the brain of the computer. So these three things are most important. For Tech Mahindra, we are playing the most important part in big data and the algorithm side.
Not in computing power or computing.
There are a lot of specialist companies who are doing, and they have great solutions, great hardware, and we are using those specifications suited to our customer requirements.
Perfect. So the big data, which is I think one of the most important thing, which equation is the most important equation, like big data, computing power, or algorithm? Which one has the high priority?
So I take an example. When I talk to my customers, I'll take an example from the manufacturing industry.
Yeah.
Let's take an example from the auto industry.
Yeah.
So the auto industry growth in China has been phenomenal. When I was in 2008-9, came first time, it was a 15 million car market. Now it's 30 million. It almost doubled, surpassing everything Europe and US.
Got doubled.
Now, the challenge they're facing is that how they increase the efficiencies in the production lines, how they really make more decision-making more powerful. The reasoning can be more accurate. And for that purpose, they need to collect a lot of data. Now, a huge amount of data is created in an auto industry in the different parts of the value chain, at the design stage, at the production stage, at the after-sales marketing, and many other areas. So now, how do you integrate all those data? So once you integrate, there's a lot of data islands. So the first step we have realized with a lot of our customers and prospects is that they are not sensing data. If they're sensing data, the data is going into drain. They're not capturing and storing it well. If they're storing it well, nobody is analyzing it. So we figured out with our own framework that in the big data, to really happen and really make good use of it, so it doesn't go to the drain, you have to sense and connect. You have to connect and collect and analyze. Once you're analyzing, you have to build those data science models or data modelings under those boundary conditions. And then comes the AI part. So our journey in the last 2 years with our customers is like more of learning from them and also educating them that this is possible and this is not possible. It's very easy to slip into some kind of a science fiction that what AI can do, what AI cannot do. So the first element of big data is very important, that you have to get your data very important. Now there are different classifications of data which we have observed.
Yeah.
First data is your normal data, which is structured, which is very high quality data, easy to analyze, and the most effective way. So if I scale them into the ease of 1 out of 1, then the second data comes the time series data. That how over the period of time you have collected a lot of data and how you can use it. It is also around 0.9 or 90%, 80% effectiveness. So these are the two important data which actually being used a lot in the big data. The challenge is coming in the image, in the video, in the audio, in the text data. These are the 4 data which are very tough to analyze. So what we have taken, we are focusing on those first 2, the time series and structured, and the third, which is image data, because that is becoming the most important one. And there are many use cases of AI getting emerged in that. So big data is becoming in this way, and you have to really slice the elephant, that how you really go about and genuinely solve the problems in each section.
So we say, if we want to just simplify that, we say that input, processing, output. So in input, that how you have to, input, you want to say that even you want to have input, you have to have your input channelized, you have to have your input in a kind of effective algorithm, which when you collect the data, which make it easier to analyze. For the processing level. So, and then based on that input, processing, then output. So then you talk about that different classification of like big data, and the hard part is video, audio,
Right.
and text and so on. So for this part, like we have a lot of applications like face recognition system,
Right.
application like those translators that we have that based on your audio, they
Right.
have to, the machine has to recognize and decipher it and turns to the text and so on.
Right.
They're all coming from this AI and also like learning machine that
Machine learning.
Exactly. I mean, every step they learn, and by every single input they are learning, because
Right.
the new data or the new pattern of things getting in that they learn, for the next one they try to be better. So all these kind of things that most of our viewers know about that. So what we want to talk now is that you are saying that big data is the most important part of the AI innovation, because in the equations that you mentioned, like 3 computing power, big data, and algorithm,
yeah.
So now the most recent one, I think, is big data. Means the big data is something that couldn't be possible if you didn't have algorithm. Because the first equation was algorithm. Yeah?
Right.
Then we got in computing power, because at that time, like you mentioned, 70 years ago, 60 or even 50 years ago, even let's say 20 years ago and 10 years ago, we didn't have that crazy big data.
Right. So I think what is happening is essentially, like, just give you one example, that currently the data you're collecting, and you rightly mentioned about the face recognition, so we call it object identification. It uses a complex neural network to actually identify the images or the characters or any kind of image you are in the question, but it requires a massive data set. It requires a lot of labeling. It requires a lot of processing power to actually come to the solution in a more faster way. So just taking one example, like nowadays in the retail industry, you're using a lot of face recognition data to open up your stores, or you are trying to understand the client psychology, and based on that computation, what you're doing is you're actually pushing a lot of content to the consumers. So currently, because of this big data and analytics, the engine you are building, a rule engine you are building, is actually augmenting the human intelligence. Everyone is trying to mimic the human intelligence, the way we think, how biologically we think, how a child develops to an adult, and how his brain develops. So same thing is being used. Like in the aeroplanes, when the aeroplanes were designed or conceptualized, everyone saw a bird flying. But the way the bird flew, the aeroplanes are not made the same way. So it means the embracing of the technology was different. The output achieved was the same, that you have to achieve a flying machine, but you're not flapping the wings of the airplane. Similarly, whatever biological mimicking you are trying to do of the human intelligence, it has to be achieved in a different way. So object classification, your pattern recognition, training your data model so that it contains the ability to make decisions or augment decisions is being certainly built. However, the challenge we are facing with our customers, or even the whole world will face, is it still doesn't have reasoning. For example, if I place a cup of a coffee on the table, I know as a human being that until unless I tilt the table or push that cup, it is not going to fall. But when I make this model in the system, the computer system doesn't know that. And in real life, we don't write these things, rules, in the books. Even a child knows, or a person even who has not read Newton's law, the first law, that until unless you do this, it will not fall. So there are a lot of implicit understandings stored in our brain, which is hard to mimic in the system. And that's the biggest challenge we all going to face, that while we'll have a lot of computation, big data, but the next step of AI, the future of AI, will be the reasoning. And how do you aid the decision making? I take one very quick example. We're working with a client in an auto car insurance. So they came with a problem statement that in China, when there's bad weather, hard traffic, they have a problem statement that a lot of accidents happen, breakdowns happen. They have to rush their towing vehicles, and that is all done manually. Someone will report, call, and they will be very reactive. Or even if someone is really monitoring by sensing and collecting the data live, it has to rely on human intelligence. So now they've asked us to model the problem so that we can predict the breakdown in next 1 hour, based on the live weather, traffic, holiday, calendar situation. And what we're using is we're using images by buying the data from third party, from the government, because if there's a very crowded image, there's a possibility that there could be a breakdown. If the weather condition is bad, the volume of the rain is bad. So you're collecting all this data, and then you see a huge data coming up. And then now, still we have not been able to modify the solution to the perfection, but we're building that reason into this data analytics by refining the algorithms. And with the machine learning, some of the learning is happening automatically, some learning is aided by the human beings. So that is the way it is defining, and that's where it is going on.
So you think this is the kind of challenge that you have, that the mimicking all the pattern of human, what we are doing, how we are thinking, or how we can have solution of things. You think this is one of the barriers that you have it in AI and basically in big data, then to make it. Do we have any other barriers?
There are many barriers. The most important barrier, I can take one example, is that even if I want to recognize a simple system with certain reasoning of object or image classification, any guesses how many images you need to use? Any guesses to train that model?
Well, as we have the population of 8 billion people, so probably if we say that 7.800 million people are different, maybe 200 million are similar, I don't know.
Absolutely. If it comes to human classification, the number is absolutely correct. But I'm just taking a simple example. If you really want to apply a simple solution, we were trying to do a problem solving for an auto tier 1 in which we wanted to recognize the defects in the components. And a lot of images are captured every day. They capture some around 1,000 images every day. And we made a model. We need to train that model. We use 15 million images.
15
million images to just mimic one standard component's quality checking procedure, which can be automated, and you need not a human mind to make a decision whether this part is good or bad. So that's the extent of massive data sets needed. It's tough. It's very tough because it's very expensive. You have to create, you have to collect, you have to store. So that's why these will be a lot of barriers in the AI in future.
So, well, we want to focus in auto industry. So for auto industry, even like there are different how we say stages. Like the stage of like producing the car itself, which we have a lot of parts that all together they have to be assembled to do one function, simple function. Taking people or taking goods or cargo from one place to another place.
Absolutely.
So the production stage, and then after production stage, we have the kind of after sales service, and then also we have some retail services. Like it goes to some other companies that they are providing the fuel, they are providing many other materials for the consumption of your car, your automobile. So which part is the most or is the most complicated part, and which part they need AI more than other parts? The part that it goes for production, the part that it goes for CRM, customer relation management, or customer how we say the many other things coming in this the whole picture. So which part?
If the value chain, And a very good question, actually, because that's what we are trying to do, and there is a lot of reports which came out from leading consulting organizations, so we are using that as a basis, and also in the field when we come across. See, what is happening is that the people who are really embracing AI in the auto industry at this point of time, people in the marketing and sales, because they want to make a judgment about their decision of the next product to buy. They want to know that in Chandu, how many cars of which color would be selling in the month of October. So
customers' behavior.
So they have to capture that. So marketing and sales, which really impact the top line of any company, they are embracing the AI and their use case is the most. Then coming in the supply chain and the production side, that they really want to modify the supply chain in such a way so that the interaction between the one supplier to the next supplier or amongst the supplier is fast and transparent, and the decision making is more accurate. So they are using it more. I take example of a production industry in the auto industry. Predictive maintenance. It has been in place for many years, and people have been using through traditional methods. But now, because of this AI and all this power coming up, now it is a possibility becoming more closer with the huge data sets emerging, that you can make more important reasonings and make more important decisions, whatever remote diagnostics and remote management you did. So you can say marketing and sales, as rightly you said, is CRM side, and the production supply chain.
You mean the marketing and sales is the most, the only, not the only part, is the part that mostly has the need of AI innovation.
Right.
And then after that, what was the second one?
The supply chain and the production. These are the most important.
How much it affects the cost? I mean, how much, either it's bringing more profit or it's just deducting the cost. So marketing and sales bringing profit.
Right.
For the second part is deducting the cost, yeah?
Yeah, so I can take an example. For example, for one customer, we deployed a solution which is now in the testing stage and now getting more better, is that they had a wastage of a lot of parts in their supply chain, and we calculated, but how much is the wastage? They said, okay, fine, in 1 year, the wastage is coming around $22 million. They waste that much of parts because they're not able to figure out at what location, at what station the problems are happening. And if they can get the information earlier, then the breakdown time will come down. And then the machine learning actually aids it more faster. So it could reduce the cost, and the waste is reduced not from 22 to 0 to a very good number. So they could really much see that, we are able to save around $15 million in a year by deploying this system. In order to save $15 million, which could be a cumulative saving for next 3 years of around 75 or 40, $55 million, people are ready to spend $1 million on that solution. But if the potential of saving is much lower, then they will fail. It could be a novelty value. It is not. It is an innovation, but maybe not leading to results. So in some cases, cutting the cost, and in some cases where you want to push the content to your consumers by really making the intelligent discoveries about the data, and by analyzing the data, they're able to increase the car sales as well, or maybe the product sales as well. The data is confidential, so probably sometimes they do not share how much they do that, but certainly people are getting the benefit out of it. So it is happening on both the sides of the value chain.
Nice. So what about IoT and AI in auto industry? How is it the combination? How it helps?
Very important point you brought, because if you see the big data, I mentioned the framework we use is the sense and connect, and connect and collect. So IoT is the Internet of Things, right? So if you're not sensing and connecting, and if you're not connecting and collecting, you don't have any means for the data. Now, because of this computing power, the processors, the infrastructure, you can put any device on internet. You can collect any data in any form. You can have images, you can have audio, video, text, sense, signals, anything. So you can collect in that way. So IoT is playing a very important role, and that's how wherever you have the IoT, the chances of analyzing the data and then building more robust AI tools over the data is the highest. So that's why we are encouraging all our manufacturing industries or customers that embrace IoT. Wherever you feel you have the high criticalness of the products or your processes, please implement IoT, collect data. If you're collecting, then try to connect over a cloud so that you can start analyzing it. So IoT would be the backbone of AI.
So if you want to go a bit more in detail, for the IoT stuff in car industry or in auto industry, how it is, can you just mention a kind of application about that, like for like engine management system?
Right.
Are we using any IoT stuff there?
There are a lot of players who are working. If you talk about the engine management system, it has a control unit. And currently what happens is that the control unit is designed, developed for certain boundary conditions to operate in a certain environment or a certain test cycle for the lab cycles, or maybe certain road conditions in particular city or particular atmosphere, right? And then you extrapolate that, okay, it's a European cycle, it's an American cycle, or a Chinese or Indian cycle. But what happens on the real road is that the conditions change because of the density of the air or the temperature or the pollution or any other parameter. Now the car you have designed or the engine you have designed starts behaving differently. It will operate between certain parameters which have been set by the engineers. under certain assumed conditions, but the real conditions are different. Combinations are multiple. So now we are developing a concept for some of the tier ones where the ECU, the electronic control unit, can actually in real time collect the data and can change the parameters automatically. So that will be a very big change which is going to happen. And that will happen, you can collect the speed, you can collect the GPS location of the car, now the data availability, humidity, everything. So you can collect everything there for each car customized. So it's like, you are customizing the control unit of the engine for every car in real time. However, it will take some more time because these all models have to be tested and proven on the road. But yes, the thoughts are in this direction is going on.
Yeah, it's interesting just letting our viewer knows that sometimes some cars, they might work very well in China, let's say, this is just example. But if you take the same car like in Europe, or if you take this same car, I don't know, in Africa or India, it not might function properly and it might have a lot of problems, the engine, because the adaptation is really different.
Right.
The humidity and so on. And there are always those manufacturers that they are producing cars. They want to see where the car is going and for which country is going. Based on that, they try to adapt set the engines based on the weather, based on a lot of other criteria. So what you're saying is all about that. If you have ECU, which is learning by itself and adapting the system and the setting of the engine based on that, which is beautiful. And of course, as Mukesh said, this is a kind of expensive process because it needs a lot of time, a lot of supervision, a lot of data, and good right classification that you can have right data in and so on. That's perfect. I mean, let's go a bit in macro level. So how do you see AI innovation in China? Because they talk about AI innovation in China a lot, and Chinese government, they have invested a lot. Even their educational system, they're using a lot of AI things, and they have a kind of policy that they want to just teach every single student, even in their school, how the AI is and how AI works. What do you think about that trend?
Well, I think China is doing extremely well. If you just count after US, I think China would not be far behind at all. And the primary reason is that China has got a great entrepreneur infrastructure. The fundings are available. The government has a very high will and high interest. And I have seen personally that the solutions in the image analysis, there are companies which I might not name in this interview, but they're doing a great job, I think, and they have become the unicorns, the decacons. They just came 3 years ago, nobody knew their name, and they are suddenly well known, and they are multi-billion-dollar valued. So they are using a lot of face classification, face recognition technologies, voice recognition technologies, and surveillance, cybersecurity. So I think China is far ahead. How to really embrace it in your practical daily life is the question mark. But there also, I think China is getting far ahead than many of the other nations. And to just quote a simple example in the retail industry, the new retail concept is actually merging a lot of online and offline combinations. And this data analytics and artificial intelligence is playing a very important role with a lot of players. So whether it's Baidu or Alibaba or a Tencent or any other player which are embracing those technologies much faster. So AI would be definitely be creating a big barrier, and Chinese companies are doing a lot of stuff there. So it will be very hard for multinationals to compete with them unless they really become too local and they really identify the pockets of opportunities to sell to them.
So you think that because you know that China's market is big because the population is 1.4 billion people. Like if we imagine that even let's say Chinese government has a kind of face recognition, which every government they have it because of the ID card that they are issuing and so on. So let's say that they have a kind of a big data bank of like 1.4 billion people and giving them a lot of possibility to have a really better system, because of data entry and so on. So do you think that population is important to have your AI in these for big data part? Do you think that population is important as you're from India as another most populated country in the world.
It is important. It is because, as I
Because
said,
the more you have information, the
more data sets you have, and the more money you have to capture the data, store.
Computing power and algorithm. And then you said that we have the stage, maybe it's coming up, and it's reasoning.
Right.
What is that? What is that? What is
Just to simply put, reasoning is that if you look at some data sets of a company's charts, that how they are doing, and then you analyze some text data, then you go and watch the video interview of their CEO. So then, as a human being, you develop certain reasoning that are you going to invest in the stock of that company or not? Now, as a computer, you can feed all the data about their graphs, about their video interview analysis, how many times the CEO has used the word innovation or share price or customer delight, etc. You can analyze all those things, and the computer will give you a great report. Oh, yes, this company has this focus, that focus, so much of the growth of the share price, etc., etc. But then comes is the reasoning. That does that computer has a reasoning to tell you that invest or not invest? Because you yourself will use your own reasoning, your cognitive ability.
Exactly.
That is something is the next step for AI, that how you can build in that. Currently, I don't have the answers because we are trying to do and scratching the surface, but I'm sure that with experience and learnings in the market, we'll definitely go to that stage. But that's the precise difference. So what people are saying is that AI might not become a sole singularity or just a lone walker. It will always be aided by human intelligence. For example, this case of insurance car industry, the people are analyzing by themselves which area to put more towing vehicles in case there's a lot of rain or weather condition or etc. The computer system will give a result, and the human being will use his cognition or reasoning to accept or not accept.
Exactly.
So that intervention will actually go hand in hand.
So it's giving the human kind of power to make better decisions.
Right.
So the computer might make its decision, but this is at the end. It's human to accept it or not, to go through that. It's kind of making decision power means that most of the time people they don't make decision because they don't have enough information.
Right. Right.
And even sometimes they have enough information, but they might not have that ability to analyze properly and so on, and connecting the things and see what would happen, what would be the consequences of that decision because of this and this and this and that. But a lot of reasons coming together. Maybe that the AI can, connect things together.
Right.
And then by all those consequences, all the reason and so on, giving you a kind of solution. Say, okay, if you go for option A, this is going to happen. Go to option B, this is going to happen. So this is connected to reasoning.
Right, reasoning is very, very important. And that's why in some of the areas, Mars, computer has taken over, like image classification and image decision making. Probably, I was seeing some reports of McKinsey and some other consulting firms. They said that the computer decision making system in image classification and image recognition has surpassed the human reasoning. So slowly and slowly, it will happen in other areas. But for example, when it comes to I'm talking to you, what is going in my mind is your own reasoning, right? Now, there are a lot of complex decision-making processes would happen where it will define that if a computer is looking at me, they're looking at my gesture, my voice, my face, my expressions, and how I'm talking. And it will give you an answer that, oh, how is this person, is enthusiastic or not, or is true or not true. So that classification reasoning will become easily accessible after a few years of time.
Nice. So my last question. So you want to see that how would it be the challenge? It's kind of like, seems like a science fiction stuff and movies and things. This is something that is all about that saying that, okay, AI is gonna just take over humanity, and it's gonna be the extension of the humanity if AI it goes in that way and so on. What do you think about this kind of controversial thing?
I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to comment on that, but certainly it is helping. Innovation in basically is like having something new, and AI is definitely fueling that innovation. Some things we go to other ends of spectrum, myths or reality, or how much is true, how much is not true. Those discussions will happen. but I'm pretty sure that it will definitely help humanity a lot in many, many areas rather than disrupting it.
Nice. So anyway, so at the end, I just want to go through this, that Tech Mahindra is doing some good stops in terms of entrepreneurship. And I heard that you have your incubation system that you started from China, or is it started from India?
So we had a press release and as a global strategy of incubating around 30 startups globally. Nice. And we took an internal pledge that we'll do around 5 startups, very key startups, China as well. Mm-hmm. That's why we launched this joint AI lab. So now we have this motto called AI Square X. So we do advisory, the first A, incubation, adding intelligence to machines, and bringing the X, the customer experience. So we are screening a lot of startups, around 300 startups we have screened in the last almost 9 months. And now we have closed down to almost 30 of them, and we're taking their solutions, their innovative solutions to our existing customers or maybe the future customers, and trying to build a layer of solutions over there, because startups have their own challenges. Sometimes they don't have the cash flow and enough funds. So we are trying to help and position their solution to take our customers from point A to point B.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you see the need of corporations based on their needs. You come up with some startup by yourself, or you go and find some startups? Which one?
So it is both ways. For example, a lot of startups come to us that they have got a great solution in the connected car. You are a major auto player. You have a lot of capabilities. So why don't you look at our solution? Can it get integrated into your system? And it is other way around as well. Sometimes we also look for startups in robotics or maybe voice. Sometimes where we feel that we are not as strong and we're looking for some innovative solutions.
So that is good and awesome. So did you have any batches? I mean, how many startups now you have?
Currently, we have around 11 startups where we have positioned and we have really qualified the solutions to work, and they're in the incubation stage.
Nice, awesome. So at the end of every single interview that we have, you're asking all the CEOs or entrepreneurs who are coming here, what is your message for entrepreneurs, not only in China, out of China?
I think it applies to all, and one is that we have to be very genuine in solving the customer problems.
Yes.
And the second thing is just do it.
Just do it and make it happen. Yeah, I really appreciate Mukesh Sharma, head of Tech Mahindra in China and Japan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mas, for having me. Thank you very much, and all the best to GBC.